Namaskar, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, students, mothers, teachers, trainers, professors, professionals, officers, officials, listeners, learners. I welcome all respected doctors and directors. I welcome all honorable ministers, managers. I welcome all honorable advocates, advertisers, and district advisors. I welcome the most honorable President Modi ji. It's really nice time, nice place, nice section that we are explaining, expressing, defining our holy Indian spiritual, cultural, social identities in the form of unity and diversity. Om Shri Paramatma Nehe Namaha. Oh dear Lord, you are mine. Only you are my mother and father. Only you are my kin and companion. Only you are my knowledge and riches. Oh, dear Lord, it is you, all and all. There are innumerable ways to attain God realization exceedingly easy. To attain God realization, amongst all those paths, I have found a unique path which is uncommon. It is I belong to God. You may perceive this as ordinary, but in my opinion, it is extremely unique. Each one of us is God's child. It is not a usual fact. This renders God realization exceedingly easy. One disciple put a question in front of Swamiji. Earlier, you instructed us regarding seeking refuge in God and chanting His name. Then you asked us to regularly repeat, "Oh my dear Lord, I must never forget you." And now you are telling us to accept our belongingness to God. Which of these sadhanas should we follow? Swamiji says, follow which I am instructing you now. All sadhanas are excellent, but accepting that God is mine, this makes us close to God. The closer we are to God, the better the worship becomes. Carrying out our deeds diligently or disregarding our belongingness with the material world, or accepting our belongingness to God, which among us the three sadhanas is most appropriate to break away from our attachment and aversion and attain liberation. Swamiji says accepting our belongingness to God is the foremost sadhana because of our acceptance of the belongingness to God by the virtue of God's grace, attachment and aversion are also resolved. Equivalency also comes, serenity is also attained, and liberation is also fulfilled because in our essence we are fragments of God. Hame vansho jeev loke. By correcting this essence, everything else gets corrected. If you wish to effortlessly experience God, it is my request that you must accept I belong to God. This practice is much more powerful than just sadhana. For instance, a daughter in your family once married accepts that I belong to my husband's place. Similarly, you must accept that I belong to God. This is an extremely effortless and preeminent sadhana. God has Himself specified this as the ultimate untold secret, Sarvabhuhatma. In the entire instruction of the Gita, the term Sarvabhuhatma has been used only once. I am really stating this with folded hands that in my opinion, this is the foremost sadhana. I feel so in my heart that if we accept that God belongs to us, then our task will be quickly done. God is mine. If this is accepted, then a whole lot of our work is done. We have already come quite close to God. All that you wish to depart from would be achieved by God's grace, God's strength only. In Jnana Yoga and Karma Yoga, both sadhana, path, and sadhya restitution are distinguishable, whereas in Bhakti Yoga, God Himself is the sadhana as well as the sadhya. That's why the path of Bhakti Yoga is comparatively brisker to treat. Everybody is not aware of this fact. That's why I keep on emphasizing that you must accept your belongingness to God. God is our Father. Each one of us, each one of us is His beloved son and daughter. Accept this and consider most of your work completed. It is better. It is. It is better. It is better than God's continual remembrance to accept our relationship with God. That I belong to God. Our relationship is ever existing. Once the relation is embraced, once the relation Once the relation is embraced, then God's remembrance occurs inherently and does not have to be practiced. It happens without any effort. I have done in this manner. We have accepted our mother. So now we are not required to remember this. Like a rich man is always proud from within that I have so much money. Similarly, you should also at all times feel proud from within that I belong to God. Asabhimana Jai Jagan Bhore Main sevak Raghupati Pati More. However you are, you must never disregard the fact that I belong to my Lord. Be it happiness or sorrow, health or sickness, profit or loss, but I belong to God. God belongs to me. Your mind must never dwindle from this principle. There is no equivalent parts, no ability, no strength, nor privilege than acceptance of our belongingness to God. In the acceptance of God's belongingness, the mind, the intellect are not required, whereas in other sadhanas, the assistance of the mind, the intellect, etc. are required. Even with the persisting absence of certain tests and seeker, God chooses to concentrate only on the belongingness and not the absent traits. Because our belongingness to God is absolute. He who accepts his relation with God rises above the ordinary. He becomes a Sant Mahatma. He attains serenity and eternal joy. He becomes carefree of everything else. So accept that God belongs to you and relax. I belong to God. Never forget this, and you will certainly experience God. You will be naturally introduced to Satsang and Sant Mahatma, the most exceptional thing is an eternal relationship with God. By the virtue of the acceptance of the relationship, there is rapid augmentation, chanting of God's name, meditation, kirtan, etc. are not perpetual, and there is always some interference. Whereas there is no interference in the relationship with God. For example, by sleeping, the marital relationship doesn't vanish. Similarly, in forgetfulness or sleep, our relationship with God doesn't vanish. It is perpetual and ever-existing. There is exertion in performing chanting, etc. But a relationship is never tiring. This relationship is immediate and eternal. Like marriage breaks, only if you break it. If you accept that God belongs to me, then not even God can break this. The jiva or the embodied soul is a fragment of God. Therefore, if he connects with God by any means, it certainly limited. A relationship with God invariably leads to supreme welfare. Those who took God by enmity like Vansha Shishupala were liberated, and those who loved God utterly were also liberated. But those who failed to establish any relation were not liberated. If someone expresses that God is mine, it extremely pleases the Lord. In reality, except for God, there is no one whom we can call ours. Due to your materialistic tendencies, you might become ignorant of God. But God now forgets you. Ultimately, the last question was expressed by the shepherd in front of Swamiji. After acceptance of God's relation, can God be realized even on persistence of what he desires? Somebody says, yes, God can be realized even on persistence of what he desires, and the desires will not persist once God is realized. The principal mistake has been the erroneous embracing of what is not ours, like body, senses, mind, intellect, and who belong to us. We did not embrace that God. This single blunder encompasses every other mistake. In mathematics, on omission of even a single step or a digit, everything becomes incorrect and no mark is awarded. That's why you must at least accept I belong to God and God is mine. To eternally reveal the Lord and to acquire His perpetual love, it is a must to embrace the fact that God is mine. Like a child declares that the mother is mine, similarly, God is mine. The sentiment of belongingness towards God is the mantra for eternal love. It reveals the presence of God. You must and walk this feeling from within that. Why is my mother not taking me in her lap? You must firmly believe God belongs to you. This will have an immense outcome and your existence will prove victorious. My heart will be extremely delighted if you do so, and you will also be happy. You will be blissful. This acceptance is pure profit, with no loss of any kind. This wisdom is not ordinary, it is the conclusive essence of the Vedas, Gita, and Ramayana. Even if you do not believe, the truth will remain absolute. It can never be lied. You just have to embrace it from your end. Then, even if a void persists, it will be up to God to seal it. But you must never disregard this once accepted. Keep on reiterating, I belong to God. This will naturally make you pristine and pure. Is God feebler than a philosopher's stone, which transforms metal into pure gold? The purity which is attained by acknowledging the relationship with God can never be attained by our endeavors. the benefit which is not obtained even after years and years of concern. It will be achieved in a single day by accepting our belongingness to God. The stronger one associates with people and material objects, the lesser one feels about his belongingness towards God. When it is properly understood and acknowledged that in the entirety of the limitless cosmos, there isn't even a speck of an object which belongs to us. Even the body, senses, mind, intellect, ego doesn't belong to us nor exist for us. Then only can be the actual quintessence of tattva experienced and understood. Actions by any of the three bodies, introspection and trance, mean samadhi, even they are not ours, nor of any use to us. Only after a departure from our assumed relation, directions, introspection and trance, what is achieved? That quintessence of the tattva only is ours and for us. We are fragments of God only. Till the time a human being has assumed that the body and the world are his and exist for him, till then he will listen, learn, orate and lecture, but will not adequately understand the quintessence for tattva. The advancement of a seeker will not be substantial until the relationship with God is acknowledged. Whereas the progress would be effortlessly humorous. If it is acknowledged I belong to God, accept this from within, and your spiritual standing will transform. Furthermore, there will be a comprehensive change in you. You will attain peace, doubts will be cleared, and confusions will resolve. Oh dear Lord, I belong to you, accept this much from within, and all your worldly affinities will loosen by themselves. You will not have to struggle to loosen those earthly ties. Recently, this thought has been ruminating with me a lot. To embrace our eternal relationship with God, it has been particularly coming to my mind that you must anyhow accept your relationship with God. You may accept God as your son, your father, your mother, and your brother, your friend, your guru or teacher, your disciple, your master, your servant, or whoever you expect him to be. Just accept this much and it will be tremendously beneficial. You may or may not accept, that is your wish. But I'll keep on repeating that is my duty and I'll adhere to it. Even if you wish not to accept this, I will not be upset with you, but certainly my heart will not be content. Any sadhana or spiritual practice can never be continuous, but a relation is ever existing. A seeker can pursue any form of sadhana, but must agree on the exclusive relationship with God. Until the time relation with another exists, till then, the sadhana is not absolute. What you believe to be the path towards God-realization is not the actual path towards God-realization. True sadhana happens only when we accept a relationship with God. For instance, when a married woman visits her mother's place, even while performing all obligation, she never disregards the fact that she is married. Similarly, if you wish to attain God logician, then even while residing in this material world, you must agree from within on your relationship with God. Do not agree to associate even with a sant or a guru, but do respect their teachings. Once you accept that you belong to God, then all your actions will be sadhana for God logician only. I belong to God, God belongs to me, this is the true sadhana. God belongs to us, we belong to God. If the Lord's relation is embraced in this way, then you will not have to purposely try and remember God, but instead you will innately remember Him. In our birthday routine, we have observed that a person is restricted based on their material wealth, but in God's routine, one is restricted if they are related to God. Just by accepting your relationship with God, all your losses, all worries, all griefs, and all clutter will dissolve. You will become absolute. It is said that the realization of God is extremely effortless. And it is not told that the realization of God is extremely difficult. If one goes by set norms and regulations, then the realization of God is extremely difficult. If But if the heart has a genuine passion for God, then it becomes extremely effortless. Like a child asserts that the mother is mine, similarly God is ours. The heart should have such simple passion. It is exceptionally difficult to attain God logician. If the heart lacks passion, God receives passion. If a child asserts that the mother is mine, the regulation will be applied in this. The child never deems if he is qualified or suitable by the ownership of his action. He fondly and completely dominates his mother. Similarly, God is mine. Simply accept this. If the child cries, the mother has to attend to her child irrespective of what she was doing. Therefore, simply and honestly hail, O Lord, O my dear Lord, God is mine. This one truth surpasses everything. Without asserting any rules and regulations, one should particularly develop this single trait. God is mine. The passion for belongingness should be exceptional and foremost. Disregard every other fact. Don't focus even on your shortcomings, rather gaze only towards the Lord's gracious personality. There can't be anyone except God who can be ours. No can ever stay with us. For instance, when a mother watches her child play, her heart becomes full of love. Similarly, God's heart is full of love for each one of the souls. He wants to accept them, meet them, and converse with them. But this soul doesn't even glance at God. So it is my request to all of you that, however you are, at least, remember this thought that God is mine. मेरे को गिरधर गोपाल खुसरो न कोई. If you accept this, you will never be unhappy again. There is no particular loss in accepting this. But pure and pure profit, body, senses, soul, mind, intellect, etc., nothing belongs to me. Only God is mine. If you accept this, you will be certainly, you will be greatly benefited, greatly benefited. Nothing else will bind you even in time of sickness. You will not be distressed, but would experience eternal joy. The body might feel lethargic, but there will be eternal bliss within. Even if you develop 4 to 5 degrees of fever, you stop talking or you collapse. Even then, there will be no difference in the eternal joy within. This is an absolute truth. Since all of you have come for satsang, just accept that. Regardless of however we are, we belong to God. Simply because of not accepting our belongingness to God, you will have to suffer. There is no doubt about this. At each and every place you will take birth, die and suffer. Once the relationship with God is accepted, then be joyful. There is no need to do anything else. If you embrace God, then God is happy and sons are also happy. Everyone contends, no one can be upset because we are not grabbing somebody else's part, but taking what is rightfully ours. There is no sweat in accepting God, no fee, no learning, no reading, no memorization and no qualification. There is nothing in this material world that belongs to us. Understand this, and God belongs to us. Accept this. Nothing belongs to us in this material world. You can doubt this plenty. Everything will be accepted. But God belongs to us. No doubt in this will be accepted. This has to be embraced initially. The material world is comprehended and God is accepted. Afterwards, God doesn't remain merely accepted but becomes tangible. God constantly gazes at you like a mother gets delighted when her child calls Ma. Similarly, when you call out that what belongs to you, God gets utterly delighted. You are a fragment of the Lord. You must remember this at all times. I keep on reiterating this because I have developed a particular regard for it only in recent years. I was not aware of its importance initially. For example, a daughter of your house after marriage belongs to the house where she got married. Similarly, you must also embrace your belonging to God's house. Accept that you are not a bachelor anymore. We are not without a master. Unlike a wild beast, we belong to God. Indeed, you all belongs to God forever. You may or may not know. You may or may not accept. Simply transform your sentiment. If you wish to experience God, then you must not regard yourself as a woman or a man. Affirm your relationship with God that I belong to God. If you embrace your belongingness to God, then it is tremendous achievement. If you affirm yourself as a woman or a man, then how will you achieve God realization? If you affirm yourself as a woman, then you will only achieve a man, but not God. Affirmation of one womanhood or manhood is also a hindrance in God realization. The distinction between a woman and a man is necessary for worldly customs and behavior. If you have embraced yourself as the physical body, then how will you experience God? Your inner sentiment only must transform that I belong to God. God's relation is such. it slashes all other funny relationships. You may be a sinner, but even then you are with God. Goodness and wrongdoings don't even touch you. You belong to God and God belongs to you. If you forget this, even then this truth is as it is. Forgetting and not forgetting is in the mind only. You have held the inert. You have held the inert body of material world, so it attracts you towards itself. If you disregard its relationship, then it will not attract. If you accept your relationship with God, then sins of eternal life will depart. I belong to God, this is not a fact to ponder upon, but rather should be acknowledged. 2 plus 2 is 4 only, what is in it to ponder? If the mind is free of desires, attachment, aversion, but without any sentiment of belongingness towards God, then liberation will be attained, but God will not be experienced. Whereas there is desire, attachment, aversion in the mind, but the feeling of belongingness towards God is present, then God will be experienced. It means that impeccability is related to liberation, but belongingness is related to God. Sugriva was desirous, but he accepted that God belonged to him. God belonged to him. The sentiment of belongingness is the most beloved to God. Ram hi keval prem pyara. The relationship of belongingness with God is an essential cause in awakening eternal love. God is neither a man, nor a woman, nor a neutral, but still, He is everything. That's why you can accept Him as a father or a mother. Whatever relationship you want to embrace with God, God is ready to accept it. By accepting the relationship, the sentiment of belongingness develops. The sooner God is attained by belongingness cannot be attained through exercise. The close relationship that your son has with you, a similar relationship a servant does not have. A servant is related due to work and profession, but a son is not related by work and profession. When the servant works well, you get satisfied. But even if the son is illiterate or inept, even then he has full right over his father's property. If you perform activities, then you become a servant. But if you establish belongingness with God, then you become the son. You must try and remember that we are a fragment of God, whom no one can be equivalent to, then how can anyone be greater than him? So you must not get afraid of material illusions. You must not get afraid of material illusions. We belong to God. By remembering this, you will inherently acquire strength. We are not an orphan, we have a Lord. Remember this. Just because of not remembering God, you got disappointed and disheartened. Will the Lord employ his strength for himself? Like a mother's milk is for her child and not for the mother herself. Similarly, God's strength is for us. Being a fragment of God, we are not feeble. However we are, we belong to God. He is a useless son, not a son. we belong to God, then why should we worry? He who does not belong to God should worry. Nothing except God is mine. Accept this and you will be greatly benefited. There is nothing more joyous and blissful than this. This is the essence of all the Shastras and teachings of all Sant Mahatmas. Chanting the Lord's name, bhajan, kirtan, etc. are not required. You may or may not have control over the mind, but at least accept this much that there is nothing else except God which belongs to us. How is the Lord? We are not interested in that, however He is. He is ours. The protector of countless universes. That Paramatma is our Father. Then for what should we worry? If you accept that God is mine, I belong to God, then there will be a tremendous transformation in you. You will become carefree and fearless. Accept that God belongs to you and all your work is done. Not even a fraction of a task will be left for you to do. Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, meditative yoga, bhakti yoga, etc. Nothing will be left. The striver of sadhana will become complete with all objectives achieved, all knowledge earned and all desires fulfilled. He who is the guardian of all countless cosmos, that God is mine. If this is accepted, then what else is left and how is it left? The essence of love is belongingness. For those who are dear to us, we naturally tend to remember them. We remember our wife, son, and daughter because we love them. We have accepted our belongingness to them. If you want to love God, accept that He belongs to you. Then you will naturally remember Him without any effort. Whatever you start liking, the mind automatically goes towards it. God is mine. The power that lies within this is not there in renunciation and hostility. Each and every soul is a child of God. 8.4 million forms of bodies and other bodily forms such as radiant fish, demons, ghosts, etc. are also God's children. If you just accept that you are God's child, then what stops you? Once you accept it, then most of your work is done. The state that is not achieved even after years of sadhana, you will be attained just by accepting this. We belong to God. We have been blessed with this incredible truth. Now what else do we require? If we just don't forget our belongingness to God, then everything will become alright. We will experience Sitan Amal Sahaj Sukrasi. We wouldn't be required to perform sadhana. It will happen naturally. We belong to God. If we remember this truth, then impurities will not come close. They will run away. But if we forget this, then we will get surrounded by impurities. We belong to God by accepting this. None of you can become a saint. Wherever you are, no one can interrupt you from this. Now we belong to God, accept so, and immediately become carefree, fearless, calm and worryless. For instance, a son, naturally, without even any education, has complete ownership over his father's property. Similarly, because of your belongingness to God, you will naturally inherit properties of God. When we look at the Mahabharata, we notice that the word presented the Pandavas with both favorable and unfavorable conditions implanted. But it was incredible of the Pandavas that they never disrespected the Lord. Among the Pandavas, Bhimsen had a big mouth, but even he never spoke against the Lord. Such should be the Lord admirers. Whereas Duryodhana never developed any admiration for the Lord. He considered the Lord a clever and shrewd man. The Pandavas were incredible in the fact that even when conditions moved against their will, they still considered that the Lord belonged to them. Similarly, in situations happening against our will, we should still see that the Lord belongs to us. Numerous things are told concerning God. But those who wish to attain liberation should not dwell on how is God, how not is He. The truth that believers' liberation is there is a God, and however He is ours. The foremost thing is we have a Lord. We are not orphans. This truth should be firmly accepted. The most promising technique to experience God realization is I belong to God. My intellect belongs to nature. Therefore, if the mind intellect is unsettled, then that's nature's problem. As I belong to God, as God is immortal, so I am also immortal. Since God never dies, then how can I die? That's why the saints have spoken, Ram Mare to main maru, nahi to mari bala, अविनाशी कालक हो मरे मारा जाए. I belong to God, God belongs to me. This truth is greater than chanting the Lord's name. For God's remembrance, this is true devotion. In reality, only he is a devotee who belongs to God. He who belongs to God is not an ordinary person. A material person is ordinary. Objects and actions are related to this world. We are in no way related to them. While performing any action, remember that I belong to God. Then in what way should I perform this duty? Intuition will naturally emerge within your mind. If you will love the Lord with an innocent heart, then in what way you should be devoted? This will naturally occur within your mind. God is mine. This is a genesis for love. Love doesn't arise from renunciation, austerity, vishesha, but from belongingness towards the Lord. This truth is profound. After many years of delivering discourses, I became aware of this truth. Whatever belongs to us naturally becomes dear to us. We belong to God, God belongs to us. This is no ordinary truth. Such devotion is of high status. There is no sadhana equivalent to it. We belong to God, God belongs to us. We have become aware of this. Now why will we take another birth? Most conclusive and essence of all is the fact that only God is ours, except Him, no one else is ours. God is ever present with us. Except Him, no one else stays with us forever. If you accept the truth, if you accept this truth, then it is greatly benefiting. What comes and goes never belongs to us. But God is always present with us. He never departs. This is the essence of all the Shastras, Puranas and Vedas. So behave with love with everyone, serve everyone, respect everyone, and honor everyone, but in your heart, don't consider anyone yours. Within your heart, consider only God as yours. If you acknowledge others as yours, then one day you will be have to be. You will have to be. To serve everyone is ours. But for ourselves, no one is ours. For ourselves, only God is ours. You may consider God as Samna, Nirguna, Sakar, Nirakar, etc. Whatever you believe. But He is ours. What I have told you is the essence which is not heard everywhere. If you say in front of Yamraja, the deity of death, also that I belong to God, then even Yamraja will shiver. If you accept your relationship with God, then purity and niceness will naturally come to you. We belong to God, God belongs to us. By merely uttering this, we will become pure naturally. We might be a disobedient child, but even then, we belong to God. We just have to dedicate our disobedience. Sadhana that happens by the virtue of the body, that sadhana also is not valuable. From within what is mine, the value that this has, it's not there in chanting, etc., performed by the body. A chaste wife doesn't say her husband's name, but does that diminish her love for her husband? Among hundreds of men, she finds only her husband as hers. नहीं रटिया तो काव्या घटिया न चाहिए जैसी नार सुहागनी पति को नाम मली. Being a fragment of God, you are one with the Lord. The body is one with the material world. If the body doesn't appear as ours, then Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga, all three will become effortless. Even after these many years of satsang, if we don't accept that the body belongs to the world and we belong to God, then what have we done? High talks like a Pandit wouldn't suffice. It is a profound truth that till God is not realized, until then, developing a relationship with anyone is dangerous. When you haven't become free from existing relations, then why do you develop new relationships? All relationships have already become tough for you to break. Then what will your condition be if you develop new relationships? It will be an utter disaster. Formulating a relationship with anyone is the cause for downfall. Jad Bharat developed a relationship with a deer. So he had to take a deer from the words Samunda. Relationship only means bondage in an excellent manner. or in a great way. Formulation of a new relationship is a new danger. A man asked another, if I hold the tail of this mare, then what will you give me? The other replied that the mare herself will give it to you. She will kick you so hard that you will die. It is required of a striver or sadhaka that he must not develop a relationship with anyone. Whatever relationships exist, they are also not broken. Then why formulate new ones? A relationship with the material world is the obstacle. This truth is extremely rare. Keep your relationship only with God, whose fragment you are. You accept this or not, acknowledge this or not, or forget this altogether. Even then, your relationship with God will never break. If you accept your relationship with God, your sorrows will disappear. Whatever study I have done, the books I have gone through, and after pondering, it is the foremost truth that we belong to God. Accept this fact for eternity, that I am not without in God, I belong to God. What I find most valuable for all in my view, I speak that. Also, what is foremost in the view of Vedas, Puranas, Shastras, and Sants Mahatmas, I speak that. I don't speak against them. An error might occur, but don't focus on that. The fact that it is special for us, friendly for us, individual for us, personal for us, profound for us, respectful for us, and beneficial for us is that our relationship is with the Lord. We belong to God. There is nothing as remarkable as this truth. Even the Lord has stated that every soul is my fragment only. Mame Vansho Jeev Loke. It is a request to everyone that you must accept God as yours. You just accept this truth and your improvement will happen automatically. Whether you understand or not, accept that we belong to God. Plenty of other facts are there as well. But I belong to God, this is the essence. Whether you understand or not, accept that we belong to God. Plenty of other facts are there as well, but I belong to God. This is the essence. That's why I repeatedly say this point. You may say that Swamiji keeps on repeating the same thing that we belong to God. But even after repeated emphasis, if you don't accept, then how will you accept by stating it just once? So don't get fed up, accept for God. Nothing else is going to stay with you. Reside in this world with immense pleasure. God is mine. Do not forget this. Everything will then become your right. Everything then will become alright. Renunciation, disinterest, etc. Everything will happen by itself. An easy way to awaken devotion is to consider God as yours. We see in the material world as well that whom a man considers his own appears dear to him. We belong to God, God belongs to us. This is the essence. Every other point comes under this. Accepting God as ours is a liberating truth. By merely considering the Lord as ours, the Lord gets pleased. Therefore, you just accept God as your mother, father, brother, husband, son, friend, master, disciple, etc. Rama is my mother and Rama is my father, Rama is my Lord and Rama is my friend. Oh, the compassionate Rama is my all in all. I do not know any other except him. Indeed, I do not know any other. I belong to God. By holding this sentiment, your ego will become connected to God. Then devotion will become easy and supreme. Without altering the ego, devotion doesn't become great. This is the principle. If you become God's, then the realization of God becomes effortless. Otherwise, God realization will be difficult. Amongst all the difficulties faced in God realization, this is the foremost. In this material world, everyone loves just ostentatious, but not genuinely. God is ours in reality. The dearer the Lord is to us, no one as dear as Him. The body appears good, but even that is not ours. I have studied books. I have also been in the company of saints and wherever I got to hear good facts. I have been there as well. After visualizing many facts, after reading, after listening, after understanding, and after contemplating, I have concluded that no one is equally dear to us as God is. I belong to God. This truth is the essence of all truths. To attain God and His love, belongingness is the main factor, and not austerity, charity, pilgrimage, fasting, etc. But if you perform hundreds of austerities, vows, pilgrimage, fast, etc., even then, nothing can be equivalent to belongingness with God. Belongingness with God is greater than chanting, meditation as well. Chanting of God's name, contemplation of God, meditation of God, trance in God. Greater than all of these is I belong to God. God belongs to me. The more firmly you trust this, the better your job will become. God is almighty. He can grant everything. He can do anything. So he can. So he is mine. He will help me. He will protect me. This desire sentiment must not be there. God is mine. That's it. Don't demand anything from him, even if she graces by the appearance or not. That's his wish. Where is God? How is he? What does he do? What he doesn't do? These things are not that much required than belongingness. If he graces by his appearance, he is mine. If he doesn't grace by his appearance, he is mine. If he provides joy, he is mine. If he provides grief, he is mine. If he puts me through any situation, even then God is mine. The situation is not mine. God is mine. Remember this one truth. Fix this in your mind. Live every moment belonging to God. There are interruptions in chanting meditation, but there are no interruptions in belongingness. For instance, upon rising the sun doesn't have to illuminate. The illumination happens by itself. Similarly, upon becoming God's, one doesn't have to work for the betterment. The betterment happens itself by God's grace. I belong to God as this sentiment grows firm. Likewise, remarkability will come within you, and an exceptional joy will be there. The distance from God, the difference from God, and the distinction from God will dissolve. By not accepting God as ours, various and many new troubles will arise, and by accepting God as ours, all troubles will dissolve. The entirety of the embodied souls are fragments of God, Ishwar, Ans, Jiv, Abhinashi. Therefore, this belief must be there within each one of us that we are God's beloved son, daughter. If you will accept yourself as God's fragment, then even without saying, listening, good qualities and virtuousness, righteousness will themselves come within you. Such qualities will appear within you. You only will get surprised, but this will happen by accepting your relationship with God. We belong to God. This is the essence of all shastras. This is the essence of all truths. You may be a householder or a renounced. If you accept God as yours, then you will become preeminent. Mirabai accepted God as hers. Mere to Pithar Gopal, Dusro na koi. Mirabai neither gave birth to any son nor made any disciple. Still, even saints utter her name with the utmost respect. When this one objective will dwell that I belong to God and I proceed towards God, then Yamaraja will become scared of you. Mighty flowers will be scared of you. Flowers will be solved by themselves only. No one will be able to conquer you. God will protect you until you have one objective decided. Till then all flowers will plunder you, trouble you. When a human takes refuge in a king, then thieves, murderers start to become scared of him. To take refuge in God, and all flowers will be scared of you. You will obtain the strength to conquer lust, anger, etc. Whatever relation with God seems appropriate to you, accept that and become carefree. You formulate a relationship with God. This is an eminent strategy to develop love. Until you formulate a relationship with God, till then love will not arise. Accept God as yours and everything will become alright. Righteous thoughts will emerge themselves and those thoughts will be followed as well. Your body is a son of your mother, father, but yourself is a son of God. We belong to God. If you accept this truth, then your satsang is successful. Like a rich man's son has pride within him. A king's son has pride within him. Similarly, you should be proud of that. I am God's son. An easy and simple fact, God is mine. If God is called mine in such a way, then it impacts the Lord immensely. I stand for countless births and after serving and suffering in 84 lakh bodily forms, If the Ammonite Saul utters, "O Lord, I am yours," or "Dear Lord, you are mine," then it satisfies God immensely. God will be utterly pleased, as if God has found something that belonged to him but was lost from him. Those who tread on the might of their sadhana, they are mere laborers. A mother never waits the activities of her child, that if he has walked this much, then I will feed him this much. I will love him this much. Waiting of activity is for a servant, that whatever work he has done, he will be paid accordingly. People often require riches, estates, splendor, etc. But God doesn't require anything. Thus, those who take refuge in their ability and worship, perform sadhana, wonder, and contemplate, they all toil as laborers. Therefore, instead of depending on the might of your toiling, you must depend on the strength of belongingness to God. A wife is chaste from the self, not by consciousness. She doesn't become chaste by purifying her inner consciousness or antakarna. Does marriage happen after the purification of the inner consciousness? This is an acceptance of the self. Acceptance has no connection with the pureness and impureness of the inner consciousness. Acceptance is of the self, not of the consciousness. If the self accepts God as his own, then what role will inner consciousness play? Will you accept God as yours after purification of the inner consciousness? I belong to the world. There is a great downfall in this. I belong to God, there is a great uprise in this. By having belongingness with God, you don't have to purposely leave the bodily practices, but it is left naturally. I am the body. If you accept so, then all flowers will come, but I belong to God, God is mine. If you accept so, then none of the flowers will come near you. If a striver or sadhaka performed all worldly obligations by believing himself as God's, then his worldly activities become alright, and so will the activities for God. But if he performed all worldly obligations by believing himself as belonging to the world, then his worldly activities will not be alright, and activities for God or worship will not even happen. God is ours, but not for our use. Instead, we are for his use. It means that we should not take anything from the Lord. Instead, we have to give ourselves to him. And even in the most difficult of circumstances, we have to consider it as a blessing sent by the Lord and remain delighted. Listening, contemplation, profound meditation. Restriction of the eyes, nose, ears are not required. The fact is extremely simple. Girdhar Gopal is mine and nobody else. Nobody is ours except God. If it does not suit you, even then accept it. This fact is true. Do not consider this to be difficult. The embodied soul is a fragment of God. There is nothing as great as this fact. I express to you with folded hands that you must give importance to the fact that I belong to God. You must strengthen this determination. Nothing similar to this exists, has never existed, will not exist, and is impossible to exist. The best truth that has come under my opinion to attain salvation is we belong to God. We belong to God. If you accept so, then I consider this as the best form of bhiksha or alms. If you give me alms for a lifetime, even it is not that much beneficial than accepting this single fact that I belong to God. We are not going to stay here. We have come here and we have to live like we stay in a traveler's mind. Similarly, we should consider ourselves here, even when this body is not ours, then who else is ours except for God? Nobody is ours, only God is ours. This is the first truth, this is the last truth, and this is the ultimate truth. After many years, this has suited me to consider God as ours. God is ours and nobody else is ours. This truth is from my heart. Except for this, I don't know much. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. Drops of nectar, Reverend Guruji. We belong to God, God is ours. This is the true mantra. If you accept this, then your life will change in a few days. If someone asks who you are, then this must come within you first. I am God's. I belong to God. This is like a treasure hidden within your house because of not being known to it. You are suffering like it. You are. Oh dear Lord, I am yours. If you accept this, then it is your insurance that God pays. Then keep on remembrance God at all times. Keep chanting of God's name. This is paying installments of that insurance. In the entirety of the eternal cosmos, nothing equivalent to even a strand of hair is ours. But in whose single fragment, the entirety of the cosmos exists, that God is ours. To eliminate all troubles and sufferings of the humans, there is a hunger, desire within the Lord that He calls me as His. With a sincere heart, just say, "Oh dear Lord, I am yours," then God becomes happy. If anyone considers somebody as his, then he doesn't consider God as his completely. Even if he keeps on saying that God is mine. If you have to remember God on purpose, then understand that your belongingness to God has not happened. For utilization only, objects are ours and for ourselves. Only God is ours, thus make use of objects for the world and make use of yourself for God. Accept that I belong to God. If I belong to God, if I belong to the world, is accepted, then let go of worldly activities. Even with God's worship, you will forget God. If a married woman remembers her mother's house, that doesn't make her unmarried again. Similarly, we belong to God. Now, if we may remember the world, that remembrance doesn't make us belong to the world. Worship is not constant, but the relationship is constant. So I belong to God, you must change your ego in this way. Nay, by connecting your relationship with God and becoming the same just as Him, the realization will be attained quickly. If you desire your salvation, then only keep attachment with God. Any other attachment is not helpful in attaining salvation. Even Sant Mahatma developed a relationship with God by considering objects and people as yours. Pride will poison you, but everything is God and God is mine. By accepting this, you will not be poisoned by the pride. You will not poisoned by pride, as God has come in between. Nothing belongs to me and God is mine. If these two facts are accepted, then it will sail your boats. You will attain spiritual success very quickly. This path, when compared to others, provides prompt liberation. When a child calls mom, mom, with aim, focus and trust are not on the word mom, but instead on his relationship with his mother. The word ma doesn't have power, but a mother's relationship has. Similarly, the power that exists in God's relationship is not there in His name. The Jiva or the embodied soul is a fragment of God. You have heard this, but I belong to God. Do you believe in this? Upon marriage, as the child is not born immediately, but is born sometimes later. Similarly, you become gods, and all that you want will happen after some time. Realization will happen naturally. Accept this from your heart that we belong to God, we are pure, we are not at all sinners. We belong to God just by accepting this in the end, eternal purity will come. Even if you are the worst of the sinner, even then God cannot deny that He is not mine. When you become gods, then all your doings become for God. You are gods, your house is God's, your kin is God's, objects are God's. If you accept this, then your satsang is successful. Accept everything as God's. What path easier than this should I take? If a mother has 10 sons, it doesn't mean the mother has to divide in 10 parts. The mother belongs to all 10 sons completely. Similarly, God is everyone completely. Accept yourself as gods and no guru is required thereafter. I belong to God and God is mine. If you just accept this, then our satsang is a success and your work will also be done. Only God is mine, there is no objection. There is no oblation, no austerity, no pilgrimage, no knowledge and no other fact greater than this one. Accepting the word as ours and not accepting what as ours is a tremendous tragedy. Tremendous tragedy. If the mind is mine, the intellect is mine, and the body is mine, then how will God be reached? Nothing in this world is mine, this is knowing the word completely. Nothing in this world is mine, know this and God is mine, except this, your will, your work will be done. Even if you don't understand this, accept that God is mine, if even if you accept it falsely, it will become the truth because in reality He is ours. If you have faith and trust in God, and God is mine, you have this sentiment within you, then even if you are not illiterate, then even if you are not literate, you will become extremely intelligent. If you accept that God is mine, then all your shortcomings would be fulfilled. Once your relationship with God is established, all your ill behaviors will go. You will become a good son. You belong to God in the first place. Ill behaviors were acquired later on. Good or bad, however I am, I belong to God. Then everything else will become alright. Your behavior, your feelings, your lifestyle, everything will improve. We belong to God is ours. This is the real mantra. If you accept this, your life will change within a few days. The more we accept the word as ours, the distant our belongingness with God becomes. Except for love, nothing has the strength to attract God. A crucial factor in attaining that love is belongingness. Belongingness attracts God. The child belongingness only attracts the mother. Therefore, belongingness is a crucial factor in visualizing God. Whenever a human says, "Oh Lord, I am yours, you are mine," God is extremely pleased upon hearing this. This is an insider secret. मेरे तो गिरधर को पार दूसरों न कोई. That's it. This is the whole point. There is nothing complicated. Mirabai has shown the path to everyone. I belong to God and God is mine, there is no capability, no eligibility, no right, etc. equivalent to this belongingness. This is the essence of all the paths. If anyone anytime asks you, where are you from? Who are you? Then it should naturally come within your mind that I belong to God. This does not have to be told in front of everyone, but within your mind has this. But within your mind, this should arise that I belong to God. God is ours, accept Him. Nobody is ours. If you accept this, you will become liberated, enlightened, and a Mahatma. Except for God, even if the Guru is accepted as ours, then there is a foundation and benefit has not occurred. We belong to God, God is ours. You must accept this fact with clenched teeth, squinted eyes, and a stiff chest. When even gross, stula, shuttle, sukshma, and causal karna bodies are not ours, then what else can be ours in this modern world? So this is all and all. In short, oh my Lord, you are mine. I belong to God. God belongs to me. Next is the Victorian age that we have started to go through. Browning's place and message. Browning's place in our literature will be better appreciated by comparison with his friend Tennyson, whom we have just studied in one respect. At least these poets are in perfect accord. Each finds in love the supreme purpose and meaning of life. In other respects, especially in their methods of approaching the truth, the two men are exact opposites. Tennyson is first the artist and then the teacher. But with Browning, the message is always the important thing, and he is careless. Too careless of the form in which it is expressed. Again, Tennyson is under the influence of the Romantic revival and chooses his objects gently, but all is fish. That comes to Browning's net. He takes comely and ugly subjects with equal pleasure and aims to show that truth lies hidden in both the evil and the good. This contrast is all the more striking when we remember that Browning's essentially scientific attitude was taken by a man who refused to study science. Tennyson, whose work is always artistic, never studied art but was devoted to the sciences, while Browning, whose work is seldom artistic in form, thought that art was most suitable subject for a man to study. The two poets differ even more widely in their respective messages. Tennyson's message reflects the growing order of the age and is summed up in the word law. In his view, the legal will must be suppressed. The self must always be subordinate. His resignation is at times almost oriental in its fatalism, and occasionally it suggests Schopenhauer in its mixture of faith and pessimism. Browning's message, on the other hand, is the triumph of the individual will over all obstacles. The self is not subordinate but supreme. There is nothing oriental, nothing doubtful, nothing pessimistic in the whole range of his poetry. His is the voice of the Anglo-Saxon, standing up in the face of all obstacles and saying, I can and I will. He is therefore far more radically English than his Tennyson, and it may be for this reason that he is the most studied and that while youth delights in Tennyson, manhood is better satisfied with Browning because of his invincible will and optimism. Browning is at present regarded as the poet who had spoken the strongest word of faith to an age of doubt. His energy, his cheerful courage, his faith in life and in the development that awaits us beyond the portals of death are like a bugle call to good living. This sums up this present influence upon the mind of those who have learned to appreciate him. Of the future, we can only say that both at home and abroad, he seems to be gaining steadily in appreciation as the years go by. Minor poets of the Victorian age, Elizabeth Barrett. Among the minor poets of the past century, Elizabeth Barrett, Mrs. Browning occupies perhaps the highest place in popular favor. She was born at Foxhoy Hall near Durham in 1806, but her childhood and early youth was spent in Herefordshire. Among the Malvern Hills made famous by pious Sloman, in 1835 the Barrett family moved to London, where Elizabeth gained a literary reputation by the publication of the Seraphim and other poems. 1838, then illness and the shock caused by the tragic death of her brother in 1840 placed her frail life in danger, and for 6 years she was confined to her own room. The innate strength and beauty of her spirit here showed itself strongly in her daily study, her poetry, and especially in her interest in the social problems which sooner or later occupied all the Victorian writer. My mind to me a kingdom is might well have been written over the door of the room where this delicate invalid walked and suffered in loneliness and in silence. In 1844, Miss Barrett published her poems, which though somewhat impulsive and overwrought, met with remarkable public favor. Such poems as The Cry of the Children, which voices the protest of humanity against child labor, appealed tremendously to the readers of the age, and this young woman's fame as a poet temporarily overshadowed that of Tennyson and Browning. Indeed, as late as 1850, when Wordsworth died, she was seriously considered for the position of poet laureate, which was finally given to Tennyson in reference to Browning in Lady Geraldine's courtship. It's supposed to have first led by the poet to write to Miss Barrett in 1845. Soon afterwards, he visited the invalid. They fell in love almost at first sight, and the following year, against the wishes of her father, who was evidently a selfish old tyrant, Browning carried her off and married her. The exquisite romance of their love is reflected in Mrs. Browning's sonnets from the Portuguese 1850. This is a novel and inspiring book of love poems, and Miss Stedman regards the opening sonnet. I thought once how Euphrates had sung as equal to any in our language. For 15 years, the Browning lived an ideally happy life at Pisa and at Casa Gudi, Florence, sharing the same poetical ambition, and love was the greatest thing in the world. How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. I love thee to the depth and breathe and height. My soul can reach when feeling out of sight. For the end of being an ideal race, I love thee to the level of everyday's most quiet need by sun and candlelight. I love thee freely as men strive for right. I love thee purely as they run from prey. I love thee with the passion but pursues in my old griefs and with my childhood's faith. I love thee with the love I seem to lose with my lost saints. I love thee with the bright smiles, tears of all my life, and if God choose, I shall but love thee better after death. Mrs. Browning entered with whole-souled enthusiasm into the aspirations of Italy in its struggle against the tyranny of Austria, and her Kesagudi Windows 1851 is a combination of poetry and politics, but it must be confessed a little too emotional. In 1856, she published Euroleg, a novel it was having for its hero a young social reformer and for its heroine a young woman, poetical and enthusiastic, who strongly suggests Elizabeth Barrett herself. It emphasizes in verse precisely the same moral and social ideals which Dickens and George Eliot were proclaiming in all their novels. Her last two volumes were poems before Congress 1860 and last poems published after her death. She died suddenly in 1861 and was buried in Florence. Browning's O lyric love, half angel and half bird, may well apply to her frail life and alien spirit. Next is Swinburne, the novelist of the Victorian age, Charles Dickens, 1812 to 1870. When we consider Dickens' life and work in comparison with that of the two great poets we have been studying, the contrast is startling. While Tennyson and Browning were being educated for the life of literature and shielded most tenderly from the hardships of the world, Dickens, a poor, obscure, and suffering child, was helping to support a shiftless family by passing levels on blacking bottles, sleeping under a counter like a homeless cat, and once a week timidly approaching the big prison where his father was confined for debt in 1836. His Pickwick was published, and his life was changed as if a magician had waved his wand over him. While the two great poets were slowly struggling for recognition, Dickens, with plenty of money and too much fame, was the acknowledged literary hero of England, the idol of immense audiences which gathered to applaud him wherever he appeared. And there is also this striking contrast between the novelist and the poets, that while the whole tendency of the age was toward realism, away from extremes of the romanticist and from the oddities and absurdities of the early novel writers, it was precisely by emphasizing oddities and absurdities, by making caricatures rather than characters, that Dickens first achieved his popularity. How was his life? In Dickens' early life, we see a stern that unrecognized preparation for the work that he was to do. Never was there a better illustration of the fact that a boy's early hardship and suffering are sometimes only divine messengers disguised, and that circumstances which seem only evil are often the source of a man's strength and of the influence which he is to wield in the world. He was the second of eight four children and was born at Landport in 1812. His father, who is supposed to be the original of Mr. McWeber, was a clerk in a navy office. He could never make both ends meet, and after struggling with debts in his native town for many years, moved to London when Dickens was 9 years old. The debts still pursued him, and after 2 years of grandiloquent misfortune, he was thrown into the poor debtors' prison. His wife, the original of Mrs. McWeber, then set up the famous boarding establishment for young ladies, but in Dickens' words, no young ladies ever came. The only visitors were creditors, and they were quite ferocious. In the picture of the McWeber family, with its tears and smiles and general shiftlessness, we have a suggestion of Dickens' own family life. At 11 years of the age, the boy was taken out of school and went to work in the cellar of a blacking factory. At this time, he was, in his own words, a quiet small boy who suffered as he walked. And we can appreciate the boy and the suffering more when we find both reflected in the character of David Copperfield. It is a heart It is a heart-rending picture. This sensitive child working from dawn till dark for a few pennies and associating the cuffs and weights in with brief intervals of labor. But we can see in it the sources of that intimate knowledge of the hearts of the poor and outcast, which was soon to be reflected in literature and to startle all England by its appeal for sympathy. A small legacy ended this wretchedness, bringing the father from the prison and sending the boy to Wellington House Academy, a worthless and brutal school, evidently whose headmaster was in Dickens' words a most ignorant fellow and a tyrant. He learned little at this place, being interested chiefly in stories and in acting out the heroic parts which appealed to his imagination. But again, his personal experience was of immense value and resulted in his famous picture of Boys Hall in Nickelby, which helped largely to mitigate the evils of private schools in England. Wherever he went, Dickens was a marvelously keen observer with an active imagination which made stories out of incidents and characters that ordinary men would have hardly noticed. Moreover, he was a born actor and was at one time the leading spirit of a band of amateurs who gave entertainments for charity all over England. These three things, his keen observation, his active imagination, and the actor, the spirit which animated him, furnished a key to his life and writing. When only 15 years old, he left the school and again went to work, this time as clerk in a lawyer's office. By night, he studied shorthand in order to fit himself to be a reporter. This intimidation of his father, who was now engaged by a newspaper to report the speeches in Parliament. Everything that Dickens attempted seems to have been done with vigor and intensity. And within 2 years, we find him reporting important speeches and writing out his notes as the heavy coach lust and rolled through the mud of country roads on its dark way to London town. It was largely during this period that he gained his extraordinary knowledge of inns and stables and horses person, which is reflected in his novel. He also grew ambitious and began to write on his own account. At the age of 21, he dropped his first little sketch. Stealthily with fear and trembling into a dark letterbox in a dark office of a dark court in Fleet Street. The name of this sketch, first sketch was Mr. Mintz and his cousin, and it appeared with other stories in his first book, Sketches by Boz in 1835. One who reads these sketches now with their intimate knowledge of the hidden life of London can understand Dickens' first newspaper success perfectly. His best known work, Pickwick, was published serially in 1336 to 37, and Dickens' fame and fortune were made. Never before had a novel appeared so full of vitality and merriment, though crude in design, a mere jumble of exaggerated characters and incidents. It fairly doubled over with the kind of humor in which the British public delights, and it still remains, after three quarters of a century, one of our most feared spelling books. The remainder of Dickens' life is largely a record of personal triumphs. Pickwick was followed rapidly by Oliver Twist, Nicholas Nickleby, Old Curiosity Shop, and by many other works which seem to indicate that there was no limit to the new author's invention of odd, grotesque prose and sentimental character. In the intervals of his novel writing, he attempted several times to edit a weekly paper, but his power lay in other directions, and with the exception of household words, his journalistic ventures were not a marked success. Again, the actor came to the surface, and after managing a company of amateur actors successfully, Dickens began to give dramatic readings from his own works. As he was already the most popular writer in the English language, these readings were very successful. Crowds thronged to hear him, and his journey became a continuous ovation. Money poured into his pockets from his novels and from his readings, and he brought for himself a home, Gershil place which he had always desired, and which is forever associated with his memory, though he spent the greater part of his time and strength in travel at this period. Nothing is more characteristic of the man than the intense energy with which he turned from his lecturing to his novels and then for relaxation gave himself up to what he called the magic lantern of the London streets. In the 1842, while still a young man, Dickens was invited to visit the United States and Canada, where his works were even better known than in England, and where he was received as the guest of the nation and treated with every mark of honor and appreciation. At this time, America was to most Europeans a kind of huge fairyland, where money sprang out of the earth and life was happy as a long holiday. Dickens evidently shared this rosy view, and his romantic expectations were naturally disappointed. The crude, unfinished look of the big country seems to have roused a strong prejudice in his mind, which was not overcome at the time of his second visit. 25 years later, and which brought forth the harsh criticism of his American Lords 1842 and of Martin Chuzzlewit 1843 to 44. These two unkind books struck a false note, and Dickens began to lose something of his great popularity. In addition, he had spent money beyond his income. His domestic life, which had been at first very happy, became more and more irritating until he separated from his wife in 1858 to get inspiration which seemed for a time to have failed. He journeyed to Italy but was disappointed. Then he turned back to the London streets, and in the 5 years from 1848 to 53 appeared Dombey and Son, David Copperfield, and Bleak House, three remarkable novels which indicate that he had rediscovered his own power and genius. Later he resumed the public readings with their public triumph and applause. It soon came to be a necessity to one who craved popularity as a hungry man craves bread. The excitement suggested Dickens physically and spiritually, and death was the inevitable result. He died in 1870 over his unfinished Edwin Drood and was buried in Westminster Abbey. Dickens' work in view of his life, he glanced to even this unsatisfactory biography gives us certain illuminating suggestions with regard to all of Dickens' works. First, as a child, poor and lonely, longing for love and for society, he laid the foundation for those heart-rending pictures of children which have moved to so many readers to unaccustomed tears. Second, as clerk in lawyer's office and in the courts, he gained his knowledge of an entirely different side of human life. Here he learned to understand both the enemies and victims of society, between whom the harsh laws of that day frequently made no distinction. Third, as a reporter and then afterwards as manager of various newspapers, he learned the trick of racy writing and of knowing to a nicety what would suit the popular taste. Fourth, as an actor, always an actor in spirit, He seized upon every dramatic possibility, every tense situation, every peculiarity of voice and gesture in the people whom he met and reproduced these things in his novels, exaggerating them in the way that most pleased his audience. When we turn from his outward training to his inner disposition, we find two strongly marked elements. The first is his excessive imagination, which made good stories out of incidents that ordinarily pass unnoticed and which describe the commonest thing: a street, a shop, a fog, a lamp post, a stage coach, with a wealth of detail and of romantic suggestion that makes many of his descriptions like lyric poems. The second element is his extreme sensibility, which finds relief only in laughter and tears, like shadow and sunshine. These follow one another closely throughout all his books. Remembering these two things, his training and disposition, we can easily foresee the kind of novel he must produce. He will be sentimental, especially over children and outcasts. He will excuse the individual in view of the faults of society. He will be dramatic or melodramatic, and his sensibility will keep him always close to the public, studying its taste and playing with its smiles and tears. If pleasing the public be in itself an art, then Dickens is one of our greatest artists, and it is well to remember that in pleasing his public there was nothing of the hypocrite or demagogue in his makeup. He was essentially a part of the great drifting panoramic crowd that he loved. His sympathetic soul made all their joys and griefs his own. He fought against injustice. He championed the weak against the strong. He gave courage to the faint and hope to the weary in heart. And in the love which the public gave him in return, he found his best reward. Here is the secret of Dickens' unprecedented popular success, and we may note here a very significant parallel with Shakespeare. The great difference in the genius and work of the two men does not change the fact that each one success largely because he studied and pleased his public. General line of Dickens' novel, an interesting suggestion comes to us from a study of the condition which led to Dickens' first three novels. Pickwick was written at the suggestion of an editor for serial publication. Each chapter was to be accompanied by a cartoon by Seymour, a comic artist of the day, and the object was to amuse the public and incidentally to sell the paper. The result was a series of characters and scenes and incidents which for vigor and boundless fun have never been equaled in our language. Thereafter, no matter what he wrote, Dickens was labeled a humorist like a certain American writer of our own generation. Everything he said, whether for a feast or a funeral, was supposed to contain a laugh. In a word, he was the victim of his own book. Dickens was keen enough to understand his danger, and his next novel, Oliver Twist, had the serious purpose of mitigating the evils under which the poor were suffering. Its hero was a poor child, the unfortunate victim of society, and in order to draw attention to the real need, Dickens exaggerated the woeful condition of the poor and filled his pages with sentiment which easily slipped over into sentimentality. This also was a popular success, and in his third novel, Nicholas Nickleby, and indeed in most of his remaining works, Dickens combined the principles of his first two books, giving us mirth on the one hand, injustice and suffering on the other, mingling honor and pathos, tears and laughter as we find them in itself, in life itself. And in order to increase the lights and shadows in his scenes and to give greater dramatic effect to his narrative, he introduced odious and loathsome characters and made vice more hateful by contrasting it with innocence and virtue. We find therefore in most of Dickens novels three or four widely different types of character. First, the innocent little child like Oliver Joy, Paul, Tiny Tim, little Nell appealing powerfully to the child love in every human heart. Second, the horrible or grotesque spoiled like Speed, Fagin, Quail, Furia, Heap, and Bill Size. Third, the grim Locant or broadly humorous fellow, the fun maker like Nick Webber and Sam Beller, and for the tenderly or powerfully drawn figure like Lady Deadlock of Bleak House. A Sydney cartoon of a tale of two cities which rise to the dignity of true characters who not also that most of Dickens' novels belong decidedly to the class of purpose or problem novels. Thus, Bleak House attacks the laws, delays Little Dorrit, the injustice which persecutes poor debtors, Nicholas by the abuses of charity schools and brutal schoolmasters and Oliver Twist, the unnecessary degradation and suffering of the poor in English workhouses. Dickens' serious purpose was to make the novel the instrument of morality and justice, and whatever we may think of the exaggeration of his characters, it is certain that his stories did more to correct the general selfishness and injustice of society toward the poor than all the works of other literary men of his age combined. The limitation of Dickens. Any severe criticism of Dickens as a novelist must seem, at first glance, unkind and unnecessary. In almost every house, he is a welcome guest, a personal friend who has beguiled many an hour with his stories and who has furnished us much good laughter and a few good tears. Moreover, he has always a cheering message. He emphasizes the fact that this is an excellent world, that some errors have crept into it, due largely to thoughtlessness, but that we can easily remedy it by a little human sympathy. That is most welcome treat to an age overburdened with social problems and to criticize our cheery companion, seemed as discourteous as to say unkindly of a guest who has just left our home. But we must consider Dickens not merely as a friend but as a novelist and apply to his work the same standards of art which we apply to other writers. And when we do this, we are sometimes a little disappointed. We must confess that his novels, while they contain many realistic details, seldom give the impression of reality. His characters, who we love or we weep or shudder at them, are sometimes only caricatures, each one an exaggeration of some peculiarities which suggest vengeance and every man in his humor. It is Dickens' art to give his heroes sufficient reality to make them suggest certain types of men and women whom we know. But in reading him, we find ourselves often in the mental state of a man who is watching through a microscope the swarming life of a water drop, pale or lively, bustling, extraordinary creature, some beautiful, some grotesque, but all far apart from the life that we know in daily experience. It is certainly not the reality of these characters, but rather the genius of the author in managing them, which interests us and holds our attention. Notwithstanding this criticism, which we would gladly have omitted, Dickens is excellent. Reading and his novels will continue to be popular just so long as men enjoy a wholesome and absorbing story. What to read? Aside from the reforms in schools and prisons and workhouses which Dickens accomplished, he has made us all rich and poor alike. Under a debt of gratitude after the year 1843, the one literary work which he never neglected was to furnish the Christmas story for his reader, and it is due in some measure to the help of these stories, bringing our good cheer that Christmas has become in all English-speaking countries a session of gladness, of gift-giving at home, and of remembering those less fortunate than ourselves who are still members of a common brotherhood. If we read nothing else of Dickens once a year at Christmas time, we should remember him and renew our youth by reading one of his holiday stories, The Cricket on the Hills, The Chimes, and above all, the unrivaled Christmas Carol. The latter especially will be read and loved as long as men are moved by the spirit of Christmas. Of the novels, David Copperfield is regarded by many as Dickens' masterpiece. It is well to begin with this novel, not simply for the unusual interest of the story, but also for the glimpse of it gives us of the author's own boyhood and family. For pure fun and hilarity, Pickwick will always be a favorite. But for artistic finish and for the portrayal of one great character, Sydney Carton, nothing else that Dickens wrote is comparable to a tale of two cities. Here is an observing story with a carefully constructed plot, and the action moves swiftly to its thrilling, inevitable inclusion, inevitable conclusion. Usually, Dickens introduces several pathetic or grotesque or laughable characters besides the main actors and record various unnecessary dramatic episodes for their own sake. But in a tale of two cities, everything has its place in the development of the main story. There are, as usual, many characters. Sidney Carton, the outcast, who lays down his life for the happiness of one whom he loved, Charles Dornay, an exiled young French noble daughter Manette, who had been recalled to life from a frightful imprisonment, and his gentle daughter Lucy, the heroine, Jarvis Lorry, a lovable, old-fashioned clerk in the big banking house, the terrible Madame Defarge sitting calmly at the door of her wine shop and recording with the ferocity of a tiger licking its corpse, the names of all those who are marked for vengeance and a dozen authors, each well drawn, who play minor parts in the tragedy. The scene is laid in London and Paris at the time of the French Revolution, and though careless of historical detail, Dickens reproduces the spirit of the reign of terror so well that A Tale of Two Cities is an excellent supplement to the history of the period. It is written in Dickens' usual picturesque style and reveals his usual imaginative outlook on life and his fondness for fine sentiments and dramatic episodes. Indeed, all his qualities are here shown, not brilliantly or garishly as in other novels, but subdued and softened like a shaded light for artistic effect. Those who are interested in Dickens' growth and methods can hardly do better than to read in succession his first three novels, Pickwick, Oliver Twist, and Nicholas Nickleby, which, as we have indicated, show clearly how he passed from fun to serious purpose and which furnish in combination the general plan of all his later works. For the rest, we can only indicate those which in our personal judgment seem best worth reading. Bleak House, Dombey and Son, Our Mutual Friend, and Old Curiosity Shop. But we are not yet far enough away from the first popular success of these works to determine their permanent value and influence. William Makepeace, Thackeray, 1811 to 1863.